When Keanu Reeves stayed silent, Ana de Armas understood his Sigma power. The night was quiet, but the silence carried a strange weight. In the middle of a busy film set, lights flickered, cameras moved, and crew members rushed with instructions. Yet in all that noise, the only thing that seemed louder was the silence of Keanu Reeves. He sat in a corner not far from the set, his head slightly lowered, his hands calm on his lap. People who passed by looked at him with respect, but they never disturbed him. They knew something about his silence that words could never explain. Ana de Armas was watching him from a distance. She had seen him in many moods, laughing with the crew, sharing coffee with workers, helping even the smallest assistant on set. But tonight was different. Keanu said nothing. His stillness was almost like a shield, protecting him from the noise around. Ana felt a strange pull toward that calm. She had always admired him as an actor, but what she was seeing now was beyond acting. It was something raw, something real. The director called for another scene, but Ana's eyes stayed on Keanu. She thought of walking toward him, but something inside stopped her. She wondered, what power does silence hold that even in the middle of chaos, this man looks like he is in complete control? She felt curiosity mixing with respect, and slowly, her admiration grew into something deeper. As the night went on, an argument broke out among some crew members. Lights had failed, the camera angle was wrong, and tension spread quickly. Voices grew louder, anger spilled out. Everyone wanted to prove they were right. Everyone wanted to be heard. But in the middle of that storm, Keanu did not raise his voice. He only stood up, walked toward the group, and placed his hand gently on one person's shoulder. He did not speak a single word, yet the shouting stopped. His eyes carried more weight than any sentence could. The crew looked at him, felt his calm, and slowly lowered their voices. Ana watched with surprise. How could someone end conflict without saying anything? She realized it was not about silence alone. It was about presence. Keanu's silence was not empty. It was filled with kindness, humility, and strength. The crew members felt it. Ana felt it. Later, when the shooting paused for dinner, Ana finally gathered courage and sat beside him. She looked at him carefully. His face was calm, his eyes gentle. "You didn't say a word," she whispered. And yet, everyone listened. Keanu turned to her with a small smile. His voice, when he finally spoke, was soft. Sometimes words only add more noise. Silence can hold answers when hearts are open. Those words sank deep into her. She realized that his silence was not weakness. It was wisdom. It was a form of power that did not crush others, but lifted them. Ana thought about her own life. She had faced struggles, harsh words, doubts about her worth. Many times, she had fought back loudly, trying to prove herself. But in that moment, she wondered if true strength was not in shouting, but in staying calm. Keanu's Sigma power was not in dominance, but in peace. The night grew colder, and the set lights dimmed. But in Ana's heart, a new warmth grew. She had seen something unforgettable. She had felt something that would change how she looked at life. This was only the beginning. The morning after that long shoot, Ana could not stop thinking about what had happened. She had seen arguments on many sets before. She had even been part of them. Words often flew like arrows, hurting people and leaving scars. But last night, she saw something she had never seen before. One man, without raising his voice, had changed the entire mood. She asked herself again and again, how could silence hold such strength? Keanu's calmness was not just about staying quiet. It was something deeper. It carried respect. It carried patience. And it carried the power to stop anger from growing. Ana wanted to understand it more, but she also felt nervous. How could she ask someone so private about something so personal? During breakfast, the crew sat in groups, laughing, planning the day. Keanu was alone, drinking coffee with the same peaceful look. Anna took a deep breath and walked toward him. "Good morning," she said gently. Keanu looked up, his eyes warm, his smile small but sincere. "Good morning, Anna." She sat beside him, her heart racing. "Can I ask you something?" He nodded slowly. "Last night," she whispered, "when everyone was fighting, you didn't say anything. You just stood there, and they stopped. How do you do that? How do you stay calm when everyone else is angry?" Keanu placed his cup down. For a moment, he looked at the ground as if searching for the right answer. Finally, he spoke in his low, steady tone. "When I was younger, I thought strength was in speaking louder than others. But life taught me that loud voices only create walls. Silence creates space. When people see that you are not fighting them, they start hearing themselves. And sometimes, that is all they need." Anna listened carefully. Every word touched her deeply. She remembered her own struggles, moments when she argued with people to prove her worth. She remembered the loneliness she felt after those fights, even when she was right. Now she wondered if she could have chosen silence instead, not as weakness, but as dignity. The day's shoot continued, and Anna worked with focus, but her mind kept drifting back to Keanu's words. During one scene, she noticed a mistake by a crew member. Usually she would have spoken sharply, pointing it out in front of everyone. But this time she paused. She walked to the person quietly, and instead of correcting them loudly, she whispered with kindness. The crew member's face relaxed, and he fixed the mistake quickly. Anna felt something new inside her. It was small, but powerful. Silence had worked. Later in the evening, when the shooting wrapped, Anna saw Keanu helping a young assistant carry heavy equipment. It was not his job, yet he did it without hesitation. He didn't announce it. He didn't wait for thanks. He simply helped and moved on. Anna thought, maybe this was his true power. Not just silence, but humility. He did not live for applause. He lived for meaning. That night, as the crew prepared to leave, Anna walked beside him. "Keanu," she said softly, "I think I understand a little more now. Silence is not empty. It's full of meaning when the heart is right." He smiled gently and looked at her. "Exactly. Silence is not about closing the mouth. It is about opening the soul." His words stayed with her long after he left. She realized she had started a journey, one that would change how she lived, how she spoke, and how she faced the world. And she knew this was only the beginning of lessons she would learn from his Sigma calmness. The third day on set began with an unusual tension. Clouds covered the sky, the air felt heavy, and even the lights on set seemed dull. Everyone was busy preparing for the next important scene, but a small mistake turned into a big problem. One of the main props, a special piece needed for the sequence, had gone missing. Voices rose quickly. Some crew members blamed others, some defended themselves. Frustration filled the air and stress spread like fire. The director's face turned red with anger, and assistants rushed everywhere, searching. Anna stood watching, her heart racing. She felt the same nervousness that everyone else carried. She knew if the scene was delayed, the schedule would break, and the blame would fall on many shoulders. She turned her head slightly and noticed Keanu again. He was standing quietly near the corner of the set, not looking worried, not pointing fingers. His calmness seemed almost out of place in that chaos. Anna found herself drawn to that calm once again. Finally, the director shouted at a young assistant who had tears in his eyes. "You lost it, didn't you? You were supposed to guard the props." The boy tried to speak, but his voice broke. Anna felt pain watching him. She wanted to defend him, but before she could move, Keanu stepped forward slowly. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply walked toward the assistant, placed his hand gently on his shoulder, and said in a steady tone, "It's okay. Take a breath. We will find it together." Everyone turned silent. The director frowned, ready to protest, but Keanu's calm presence softened even his anger. The assistant wiped his tears, nodded, and began searching again, this time with more focus. Anna was stunned. Once more, Keanu's silence and gentleness had turned the storm into calm. He hadn't defended the boy with loud words. He had defended him with dignity. After half an hour, the missing prop was found in a storage box, misplaced by mistake. Relief filled the set, and everyone began to smile again. But Anna's mind stayed with what she had seen. Later, when they sat in the waiting area, she asked him, "Keanu, how did you know that helping him quietly would work better than shouting?" He looked at her with soft eyes. "Anger breaks people. Kindness builds them. When someone is already scared, words of anger make them weaker. But one gentle touch can give them the courage to stand again." Anna thought of her own childhood. She remembered moments when she was scolded harshly for mistakes. Those words had left scars in her memory. She wondered how different life could have been if someone had given her courage instead of blame. She felt tears in her eyes, but quickly looked away. She did not want to appear weak. Yet Keanu noticed. He didn't ask questions. He didn't push her. He simply stayed silent, letting her feel safe in that silence. And in that quiet moment, Anna realized something. Keanu's Sigma power was not about being distant. It was about being present without forcing words. He gave space for others to feel, to breathe, to heal. The next day, when another small mistake happened on set, Anna chose to respond differently. Instead of reacting quickly with frustration, she paused, breathed, and spoke gently. To her surprise, the problem was solved faster, and no one felt hurt. That night she wrote in her journal, "Silence is not empty. It carries strength, respect, and kindness. I am learning that real power is not in proving myself, but in lifting others without needing to shout." And as she closed her notebook, she smiled softly, knowing that her journey of growth had only just begun. The following week brought a new challenge on set. It was a late evening shoot, and everyone was tired after long hours. The scene they were filming was an emotional one, requiring deep focus from both actors and crew. But as the night went on, mistakes multiplied. The sound team struggled with equipment, the lights failed more than once, and tempers started to rise again. Anna tried her best to remain patient, remembering the lessons she had been learning from Keanu. But the director, already frustrated, shouted harshly at a cameraman. The atmosphere grew heavy, and silence turned into a battlefield of anger. Anna's chest tightened. She wanted to step in, but she did not know how. Her eyes searched for Keanu, and as always, she found him. He was sitting at the edge of the set, calm as if the chaos around him did not touch his spirit. The director's anger grew louder. The cameraman, feeling humiliated, suddenly threw his headset on the ground and stormed out. The entire crew froze, knowing that the shooting could not continue without him. Whispers spread, some blaming the director, others worrying about delays. Anna's heart raced. She looked at Keanu, waiting for him to say something, but he did not move. He stayed silent, his eyes deep with thought. At first, Anna felt confused. Why was he not helping? Why was he not speaking up this time? Minutes passed, and the silence grew heavier. Finally, Keanu stood up, but instead of walking toward the director or the crew, he quietly followed the cameraman outside. Anna, curious and restless, walked behind them at a distance. She saw the cameraman sitting on the steps outside, his hands shaking, his eyes full of tears. He looked broken, defeated. Keanu sat beside him without saying a word. He did not ask questions. He did not offer advice. He just sat there, present and calm. The cameraman kept his head down, but slowly he began to breathe easier. After a long silence, he whispered, "I can't do this anymore. No matter how hard I try, it's never enough. They always shout at me. I feel useless." Keanu listened quietly, his face full of understanding. Finally, in his soft, steady voice, he said, "You are not useless. Mistakes do not define you. Silence gives space for the truth, and the truth is that you matter here." Tears rolled down the cameraman's cheeks. No one had spoken to him like that before. No shouting, no judgment, only respect. Keanu placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, and in that moment, something shifted. The cameraman stood up, wiped his tears, and walked back inside with Keanu. Anna, watching from the corner, felt her heart ache. She had expected Keanu to solve the problem with quick words or authority. Instead, he solved it with silence, patience, and presence. She realized that his Sigma power was not in controlling people, but in giving them back their dignity. When they returned to the set, the atmosphere changed. The cameraman picked up his headset and quietly resumed his work. No one dared to mock him, and even the director stayed silent, his anger softened by the unexpected turn. The shoot continued smoothly, and the scene was finally completed. Later that night, Anna approached Keanu again. "You could have spoken loudly. You could have defended him in front of everyone, but you didn't. Why?" Keanu smiled gently. "Sometimes, defending someone in front of others only adds to their shame. True kindness is giving them a space to heal without an audience." Anna felt a deep wave of respect. She realized she was not just learning acting from Keanu, she was learning life itself. His silence was not empty. It was full of wisdom that carried both strength and humility. As she lay in bed that night, she whispered to herself, "This is the kind of power the world does not see often. A power that does not break, but heals. I want to carry this strength in my own life," and for the first time in years, she slept with peace in her heart. The set was brighter the next morning, but the mood was not. Even though the previous night had ended with peace, a new storm was waiting. An important guest from the studio had arrived to watch the filming. Everyone felt the pressure, knowing that a single mistake could bring heavy criticism. Anna felt nervous as she prepared for her scene. She had been practicing for days, but the weight of expectation pressed on her chest. When the camera rolled, her hands trembled. Her first take failed. The director shouted for another. The second was no better. Whispers spread among the crew, and Anna's heart sank deeper with each mistake. By the fourth take, her eyes filled with tears. She could feel judgment all around her. She wanted to disappear. In the middle of the chaos, she looked at Keanu. He was standing quietly in the shadows, his arms crossed, his face calm. His silence did not judge her. His eyes only held patience. The director grew frustrated and shouted, "Anna, focus! We don't have all day!" The words cut her like a blade. She turned her face away, ashamed. Then something unexpected happened. Keanu slowly walked onto the set. The director frowned, ready to stop him, but Keanu did not speak. He simply stood near Anna, looking at her with quiet strength. He placed his hand gently over his heart, then nodded at her. No words, no lecture, only silence. But that silence carried more than words ever could. It told her, "You are not alone. You are capable. Breathe." Anna closed her eyes, took a slow breath, and when the camera rolled again, something inside her shifted. Her voice steadied, her hands calmed, and she delivered the scene with raw, true emotion. When the director called cut, the set fell silent for a moment. Then applause broke out. Even the guest from the studio nodded with approval. Anna's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not from shame. They were from gratitude. She looked at Keanu, who gave her a small smile before stepping back into the shadows. He did not need praise. He did not need credit. He only gave what was needed, then returned to silence. Later, when they sat alone, Anna whispered, "You didn't say anything. You just stood there and suddenly I believed in myself again. How did you do that?" Keanu's voice was soft. "Sometimes people don't need advice. They need presence. Silence can be a reminder that they are enough." His words touched something deep in her heart. She realized that all her life she had tried to fight for approval, to prove her worth with noise, with effort, with endless explanations. But in that moment, Keanu's silence showed her that worth was not proven. It was felt. That night, as Anna sat by her window looking at the city lights, she thought of every time she had doubted herself. She thought of the harsh words she had heard in her past, and how they had stayed inside her like shadows. But Keanu's quiet strength had begun to clear those shadows. She wrote in her journal, "Silence is not weakness. It is courage. It gives strength to the broken and peace to the restless." Tonight I learned that the loudest support can sometimes be the quietest presence. Anna closed the notebook and held it close to her chest. Her journey was no longer about learning acting. It was about learning how to live with dignity, resilience, and kindness, the very qualities she saw in Keanu's Sigma calmness. And she knew the most important lessons were still waiting ahead. The days on set grew longer, and the pressure grew heavier. Every scene carried more weight because the release date was approaching fast. People were tired, and mistakes happened more often. The director's patience grew thin, and the crew felt the stress. One evening, a storm hit the city. Heavy rain crashed against the windows of the studio, thunder echoed in the distance, and the power flickered more than once. The atmosphere inside matched the storm outside, dark and tense. During a complicated scene, one of the producers suddenly entered the set. He carried authority, and his sharp words cut through the air. He criticized the crew, insulted the timing, and even mocked some of the actors. Everyone went quiet, but the silence was not peaceful. It was filled with fear. Anna felt her stomach twist. She had seen strict producers before, but this one was cruel. His tone was heavy, his words designed to break confidence. When his eyes turned to her, he said coldly, "You are not ready for this role. Maybe the studio made a mistake choosing you." The words hit her like a punch. Her hands shook and she felt small in front of everyone. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, but her voice was locked inside her throat. Then she looked at Keanu. He was standing in the corner, watching everything with that same calm presence. He did not rush forward. He did not fight back. He simply stood with quiet strength, his eyes steady, his shoulders relaxed. The producer, noticing Keanu's silence, smirked. "And you? Why don't you say anything? Do you think your quiet act impresses anyone?" The set held its breath. All eyes turned to Keanu. But he did not reply. He looked at the producer for a long moment, his gaze unshaken, his silence louder than any argument. Then, without a single word, he turned away and walked toward Anna. He stood beside her, not speaking, not confronting, just being there. His presence alone told her, "You are not broken. Do not let his words define you." Anna felt her chest rise with courage. The producer had expected silence to mean weakness, but what he received instead was power. The crew, inspired by Keanu's calm defiance, began to straighten their shoulders. Even without words, they knew where their respect belonged. The producer, frustrated by the lack of reaction, finally left the set in anger. Once he was gone, the atmosphere shifted. Relief spread through the crew, and they slowly returned to work. Later, when Anna found a quiet corner with Keanu, she asked softly, "Why didn't you answer him? You could have defended yourself, or me, or all of us. Keanu's eyes were gentle, his voice steady. When someone uses words to hurt, answering only gives their voice more power. Silence is not surrender. It is strength that refuses to bow to cruelty. Anna closed her eyes, letting his words sink into her heart. She realized something important. Silence was not just a shield. It was a weapon, but a gentle one. It did not destroy, it disarmed. That night, as the storm outside finally calmed, Anna sat in her room replaying every moment. She felt the pain of the producer's words, but she also felt something stronger, the quiet courage she had absorbed from Keanu's presence. She wrote in her journal, "Real Sigma power is not about proving yourself to the world. It is about not letting the world shake your soul. Silence can protect the heart when voices try to break it." Anna held the notebook close, knowing she was standing at the edge of something even greater. Part of her feared what the final days on set might bring, but another part felt ready. Because she was no longer walking alone, she was learning to carry silence the way Keanu did, like a shield of respect and resilience. The last day of filming arrived. The set was filled with a strange mix of exhaustion and excitement. Everyone knew this was the final push, the last scene that would complete months of work. The air felt heavy, yet full of expectation. Anna felt nervous, her heart beating faster than usual. This final scene was hers, a moment that demanded everything she had learned as an actress. But deep inside, she also carried something new. Everything she had learned as a person through the quiet lessons Keanu had given her. The scene began, and for a few minutes everything flowed smoothly. But then, suddenly, the producer who had insulted her earlier returned. His voice cut through the set like cold steel. "Let us see if she can actually deliver, or if she is still the wrong choice." The crew froze. Old fear returned to their eyes. Anna's chest tightened, and for a moment her confidence shook. The old self-doubt whispered inside her head. But then she saw him, Keanu, standing at the edge of the set. He was silent as always, his face calm, his eyes steady. He didn't speak a word, but his presence spoke louder than any encouragement. Anna closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and remembered his words. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. When the camera rolled again, she poured her heart into the scene. Every word, every gesture carried truth. She was no longer acting, she was living the moment. When the director shouted "cut," the room went silent, but this time the silence was filled with awe. Then, slowly, the crew began to clap. The director's eyes softened, and even the producer, unable to hide his surprise, said nothing more. Anna turned her head toward Keanu. He smiled gently, a small smile that held pride, but no need for praise. After the set cleared and the night grew quiet, Anna walked beside him outside the studio. The city lights glowed in the distance, and the air felt lighter now. "Thank you," she whispered. "Not just for today, but for everything. You never gave me long speeches, but somehow you gave me the strength I never had." Keanu looked at her with calm eyes. "Strength was always inside you. I only reminded you through silence. Sometimes silence lets people hear their own power." Her heart swelled. She realized the truth. She had not just finished a film. She had finished a chapter of her life with a new way of living. She had learned that respect, humility, and resilience were greater than fear, and that kindness, even in silence, could change everything. They stood together quietly, and the silence between them was no longer heavy. It was peaceful, powerful, and full of meaning. Anna smiled softly. "I used to think silence was emptiness. Now I know it carries the deepest answers." Keanu gave a small nod. "The world is full of noise, but silence is where the soul speaks." With those words, they walked into the night, carrying a bond not built on loud promises, but on quiet strength. Anna knew her life had changed forever, and she understood now, in her heart, the true Sigma power of Keanu Reeves, his silence.